Imagine lying awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, watching shadows shift across the walls while your mind churns through tomorrow's worries, last week's regrets, and that conversation from 15 years ago that suddenly feels urgent. You're exhausted but wired. Your body aches for rest, but your brain refuses to cooperate. You've tried warm milk. You've counted sheep until you lost track somewhere past 200. And you've rearranged your pillows so many times the bed looks like a crime scene. Sound familiar? If you're over 60, the odds are better than even that insomnia has become your unwelcome companion at least 3 nights a week. Here's what most doctors won't mention during your 12-minute appointment. Conventional sleep advice aimed at younger adults often backfires for people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond because your sleep architecture has fundamentally changed. Your deep sleep phases have shrunk, your circadian rhythm has shifted earlier, and your body's temperature regulation during the night operates on different physics than it did 20 years ago. Sleeping pills carry risks that compound with age, from morning confusion and falls to dependency, that creeps up so gradually you don't notice until you can't sleep without them. But here's the part that genuinely shocked me when I first encountered it in the research. There's a 30-second technique rooted in traditional Japanese healing that targets a specific point on your wrist, and when done correctly just before bed, it can trigger your parasympathetic nervous system to release the neurochemical cascade that ushers in natural sleep. No pills, no supplements, no special equipment, just your thumb, a specific spot on your inner wrist, and the knowledge of how to activate it. I'm going to walk you through 6 methods tonight, building from simple to powerful. And I'm arranging them in a specific order because number 2 involves a surprising twist about temperature that reverses what you've probably been told. And number 1 is a 30-second wrist technique that has helped more people in my circle reclaim sleep than anything else I've shared. But before we dive in, do me a quick favor. Drop a comment below with just your age and where you're watching from. It helps me understand who's finding this information and how to make future content even more useful for you. Just your age and city or country. I'll wait. Let's start with number 6. And this one addresses a mistake so common that it's practically woven into the cultural advice around sleep. Yet for people over 60, it can sabotage your entire night. You've been told to make your bedroom as dark as possible, seal every crack of light, use blackout curtains, cover the alarm clock, eliminate every photon. The logic sounds reasonable. Light suppresses melatonin, so darkness must maximize it. But here's what that advice misses. When you're over 60, your lens has yellowed slightly, your pupils don't dilate as wide, and your retinal sensitivity to light has decreased by roughly 30 to 40% compared to when you were 30. This means you actually need more light exposure during the day to properly set your circadian clock. And an overly dark bedroom can sometimes leave your brain in a kind of twilight confusion where it's not quite sure whether it's night or just a very dim afternoon. The real problem isn't light in your bedroom at night. It's insufficient bright light exposure in the morning and early afternoon. Research from sleep centers across North America and Europe consistently shows that people over 60 who get at least 30 minutes of bright outdoor light before noon fall asleep faster and wake less during the night than those who stay indoors or wear sunglasses all morning. The mechanism is straightforward. Light hitting your retina sends signals to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a cluster of about 20,000 neurons in your hypothalamus that acts as your master clock. When that clock gets a strong morning signal, it sets a timer for melatonin release roughly 14 to 16 hours later. Without that strong signal, your melatonin release becomes fuzzy, drifting later and weaker. I worked with a woman named Margaret, 72, a retired librarian who loved her mystery novels, and had spent the last 3 years reading them mostly indoors, with her curtains drawn to reduce glare on the pages. She'd been waking at 2 or 3 in the morning for months, unable to fall back asleep, feeling progressively more exhausted. I didn't touch her bedroom setup at first. I just asked her to take her coffee and sit on her back porch for 30 minutes every morning before 10. No sunglasses unless the glare was genuinely painful. Within 5 days, she was sleeping through to 5:30 in the morning. Within 2 weeks, She told me she felt like a different person. Her evening fatigue arrived on schedule around 9. Her mind stopped racing at bedtime, and her morning energy returned. The fix wasn't her bedroom darkness. It was her daytime brightness. So here's your protocol. Get outside for at least 30 minutes before noon, ideally before 10. If weather or mobility makes that difficult, sit by a large south-facing window without sunglasses. If even that's not possible, consider a light therapy box rated at 10,000 lux, positioned about 16 to 20 inches from your face while you have breakfast or read the paper. You're not staring into it, just letting it wash over your field of view for 20 to 30 minutes. Do this every day, even on cloudy days, because overcast skies still deliver far more lux than indoor lighting. You'll notice the difference within 3 to 7 days. Your bedtime will feel more like a natural pull than a battle. But here's the kicker. This bright morning light habit makes the next 5 techniques exponentially more effective, because you're working with your biology instead of against it. Number 5 is about what you drink. But it's not the usual caffeine lecture. You already know coffee after 2 in the afternoon is a gamble. What most people over 60 don't realize is that even mild dehydration, the kind that doesn't make you feel thirsty, can fragment your sleep by triggering more frequent waking to urinate, and by reducing your blood volume just enough to make your heart work slightly harder during the night, which keeps your nervous system in a higher gear. But here's the paradox. If you drink too much water in the evening to stay hydrated, you'll be up every 2 hours to use the bathroom, which wrecks your sleep just as badly. The solution isn't to restrict fluids, it's to front-load your hydration and add a pinch of mineral balance. Your kidneys become less efficient at concentrating urine as you age, and your thirst signals become less reliable, so you can drift into mild chronic dehydration without noticing. At the same time, if you're on diuretics or blood pressure medications, your electrolyte balance can shift, and plain water alone sometimes doesn't hold in your tissues as well as it should. Analysis from geriatric medicine suggests that people over 60 who maintain better hydration during the day and balance their electrolytes report fewer nighttime awakenings and better overall sleep quality. Here's what to do. Drink the majority of your daily water before 4 in the afternoon. Aim for about 6 to 8 cups total, adjusted for your size and activity level, but get most of it in by mid-afternoon. With your morning and lunchtime water, add a small pinch of sea salt or a squeeze of lemon, just enough to provide trace minerals, sodium, and potassium. This helps your cells actually hold on to the water instead of flushing it straight through. After 4, sip only as needed, maybe half a cup with dinner and tiny sips if you're genuinely thirsty in the evening. Keep a small glass of water by your bed for dry mouth, but resist the habit of drinking a full glass right before sleep, unless you're truly parched. I knew a man named Robert, 68, a former postal worker who loved his iced tea all day long. He was waking up 3 to 4 times a night to urinate, feeling foggy and irritable every morning. We didn't eliminate his tea, we just moved it earlier and reduced the volume after 3 in the afternoon, and we added a pinch of salt to his morning water. Within a week, he was down to 1 nighttime bathroom trip. Within 2 weeks, some nights he slept straight through. His energy rebounded, his mood lifted, and he told me he felt like he'd gotten a part of himself back that he thought was just gone with age. The adjustment sounds almost trivial, but the impact on sleep continuity is real. Your bladder and your brain are in constant conversation during the night, and when you reduce the unnecessary signals, your sleep deepens naturally. Now let's talk about number 4, and this is where we start to challenge some deeply held beliefs about bedroom temperature. You've probably heard that a cool room is best for sleep, somewhere around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, because your core body temperature needs to drop to initiate sleep. That's true for most younger adults. But for people over 60, especially women past menopause and men with changing metabolism, a room that's too cold can actually keep you awake or cause you to wake frequently because your body struggles to maintain core temperature efficiently. Your circulation isn't as robust, your metabolic heat production has decreased, and your ability to vasoconstrict and conserve heat has diminished. A room set at 65 degrees might feel pleasant when you first get into bed under blankets, But 3 hours later, when your metabolism dips further, you might wake up with cold feet, cold hands, or a vague sense of discomfort that you don't consciously register as temperature, but that nevertheless pulls you out of deep sleep. Studies from sleep research centers in Japan and Scandinavia have found that people over 60 often sleep better with a bedroom temperature slightly warmer than the conventional advice, somewhere closer to 68 to 70 degrees, combined with breathable bedding and the strategic use of warmth on extremities. Here's the protocol. Set your bedroom temperature to around 68 to 70 degrees, which is slightly warmer than the standard advice. Wear light socks to bed if your feet tend to get cold, because warming your feet dilates the blood vessels and actually helps your core temperature drop, which sounds contradictory but works beautifully in practice. Use breathable cotton or linen sheets rather than synthetic materials that trap heat unevenly. If you tend to wake up sweaty, that's a sign your bedding is insulating too much, or your room is actually too warm for you, so adjust downward by a degree or two. If you wake up cold or with cold extremities, adjust upward. The goal is to find the temperature where you feel comfortably neutral under a light blanket, not shivering and not sweating. I worked with a woman named Diane, 71, a former school teacher who had been setting her thermostat to 64 at night because her husband liked it cold. She was waking up multiple times feeling vaguely uncomfortable, often with cold hands and feet, but she didn't connect it to temperature because the room didn't feel freezing. We bumped her bedroom thermostat to 69, gave her a pair of light cotton socks, and switched her to a lighter blanket. She slept through the night for the first time in months within 3 days. Her husband adjusted his side with a thinner sheet, and they both slept better. The lesson here is that generic advice doesn't account for your individual physiology at your age. You need to experiment within a reasonable range and trust what your body tells you over what a sleep app or article says. Here's the thing that makes this even more interesting. Once you optimize your bedroom temperature, the breathing technique I'm about to share in number 3 works about twice as effectively because your nervous system isn't fighting temperature discomfort in the background. Number 3 is a breathing pattern that directly activates your vagus nerve and shifts your autonomic nervous system from sympathetic drive, which is alertness and stress, to parasympathetic dominance, which is rest and recovery. You've probably heard of 4-7-8 breathing, where you inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. That works for some people, but for many over 60, holding your breath for 7 seconds can feel uncomfortable or even trigger a slight sense of air hunger that increases anxiety instead of reducing it. There's a simpler, more forgiving pattern that achieves the same physiological shift without the strain. It's called extended exhale breathing, and the principle is elegant. When your exhale is longer than your inhale, your heart rate slows, your blood pressure drops slightly, and your vagus nerve sends a calming signal to your brain. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in your body, wandering from your brainstem down through your chest and abdomen. And it's the primary pathway through which your body tells your brain that it's safe to rest. Extended exhale breathing is like pressing the brake pedal on your stress response. Here's how you do it. Lie in bed on your back or on your side, whichever is more comfortable. Close your eyes. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Don't force it, just a comfortable inhale. Then breathe out slowly through your mouth, lips slightly parted, for a count of 6 to 8. The exact count doesn't matter as much as making sure your exhale is noticeably longer than your inhale. Repeat this for 5 to 10 cycles, or until you feel a sense of heaviness in your limbs and a softening in your face and jaw. Most people start to feel the shift within 2 to 3 minutes. The beauty of this technique is that it's almost impossible to do wrong, and it doesn't require any equipment, apps, or special training. Research from cardiology and neuroscience groups has shown that extended exhale breathing can lower heart rate variability in a way that promotes relaxation and reduces the time it takes to fall asleep, particularly in older adults who have heightened baseline sympathetic tone due to stress, medications, or chronic low-grade inflammation. I guided a man named Leonard, 66, a retired electrician who had been lying awake for an hour or more every night with his mind spinning through the day's events and the next day's tasks. He was skeptical about breathing exercises, thought they were too simple to work, but he tried extended exhale breathing just to humor me. The first night, he fell asleep midway through the second minute. He woke up the next morning surprised and a little annoyed that something so simple had worked when nothing else had. Within a week, it became his nightly ritual, and he told me it was like having a switch he could flip to turn off his brain. The protocol is this: do 5 to 10 cycles of extended exhale breathing after you turn off the lights and settle into your sleep position. If your mind wanders, gently bring your attention back to the count and the sensation of the breath. If you wake during the night, use the same technique to ease yourself back to sleep, instead of lying there stewing. You'll find that the more consistently you practice it, the faster it works, because your nervous system begins to associate the breathing pattern with sleep onset. And here's the part that ties into the next two techniques. Once your vagus nerve is activated and your nervous system is in parasympathetic mode, physical touch points on your body become far more effective at deepening that relaxation. Number 2 is going to surprise you because it involves a type of gentle pressure that most people associate with tension relief, not sleep, and because the location I'm about to describe is one that almost no one thinks to address at bedtime. But studies from acupressure and integrative medicine research, particularly out of Japan and Korea, have found that applying sustained gentle pressure to a specific point on your neck and shoulder can release muscle guarding that you don't even realize you're holding. And when that tension releases, it sends a cascade of relaxation through your upper body that often triggers yawning and drowsiness within 2 to 3 minutes. The point is called jianjing in traditional Chinese medicine, located at the top of your shoulder, midway between the base of your neck and the edge of your shoulder, right in the thick muscle of your upper trapezius. For most people over 60, this muscle holds chronic tension from decades of stress, poor posture, computer work, driving, and the subtle guarding that comes from pain or stiffness elsewhere in the body. You might not feel it as pain, but if you press into that spot with moderate pressure, you'll often find it surprisingly tender or tight. Here's the protocol. Sit on the edge of your bed or in a comfortable chair just before you're ready to lie down. Reach your right hand across your body and place your fingers on top of your left shoulder, finding that thick muscle bundle between your neck and shoulder joint. Press down with moderate pressure, not so hard that it hurts, but enough that you feel a deep, slightly uncomfortable sensation. Hold that pressure steady for 30 to 60 seconds, breathing slowly and deeply. You'll often feel the muscle start to soften under your fingers. Switch sides, using your left hand to press into your right shoulder. Do this once on each side. The pressure stimulates mechanoreceptors in the muscle that send signals to your spinal cord and brain, triggering a reflex relaxation response. It also increases local blood flow and reduces the background tension that can keep your nervous system in a low-level alert state. I worked with a woman named Carol, 74, a former office manager who had been waking up with headaches and stiff shoulders for years, and her sleep was fragmented and light. She thought her sleep problems were just age and stress, but when we added this simple shoulder press to her bedtime routine, she started sleeping deeper and waking up without the headaches within a week. She described it as feeling like someone had finally turned off a motor in her shoulders that she didn't know was running. The key is consistency and not overdoing the pressure. You're not trying to force the muscle to relax, you're inviting it to let go. If you have any shoulder injuries or severe pain, check with your healthcare provider before trying this. But for most people it's safe and immediately soothing. Now this technique works beautifully on its own, but when combined with the extended exhale breathing from number 3, the effects amplify. You press the shoulder point while breathing in the extended exhale pattern, and your entire upper body relaxes in a way that makes it almost impossible to stay tense. And that brings us to the final two techniques, which are the most powerful and direct. Number 1 is the 30-second wrist press that I mentioned at the very beginning, and this is the technique that consistently produces the fastest and most dramatic results for people over 60 who struggle with insomnia. It targets a specific acupressure point called Shen Main, or Heart 7, located on the inner wrist at the crease where your hand meets your forearm on the pinky side. In traditional Chinese medicine, This point is considered the gateway to calming the spirit and quieting the mind. And while that language sounds mystical, the modern physiology backs it up. Pressing this point stimulates nerve endings that feed into the ulnar nerve and send signals up to your brainstem, where they interact with centers that regulate arousal, anxiety, and the transition into sleep. Studies from integrative medicine journals and acupressure trials have found that sustained pressure on shenmen can reduce subjective anxiety, lower heart rate, and decrease the time it takes to fall asleep, especially in older adults with insomnia. The effect is not placebo. Brain imaging studies have shown measurable changes in activity in the amygdala and prefrontal cortex when this point is stimulated, consistent with reduced threat processing and increased relaxation. Here's exactly how to do it. Lie in bed in your sleep position, lights off, room quiet. Bend your left wrist slightly so you can see the inner side. Locate the crease where your hand meets your forearm. Starting from the pinky side, slide your right thumb along that crease toward the center until you feel a small hollow or dip between two tendons, just before you reach the bone on the pinky side. That's shenmen. It's about the width of your pinky finger in from the edge. Press into that point with your right thumb, applying firm, steady pressure, not painful, but definitely noticeable. Hold that pressure for 30 seconds, breathing slowly and naturally. You might feel a slight tingling or warmth radiating up your forearm. After 30 seconds, release and switch sides, pressing the shenmen point on your right wrist with your left thumb. Hold for another 30 seconds. Then settle into your pillow and let your arms rest naturally. Most people begin to feel a wave of drowsiness within 1 to 2 minutes after releasing the pressure. It's subtle at first, a softening behind your eyes, a heaviness in your limbs, a quieting of the mental chatter. If you don't fall asleep immediately, that's fine. The point has been activated and the process is underway. Avoid checking the clock or engaging with your thoughts. Just let yourself drift. I worked with a man named George, 70, a retired mechanic who had been taking sleep medication for 5 years and hated the grogginess it caused the next morning, but couldn't sleep without it. He was deeply skeptical of anything that sounded alternative, but he agreed to try the wrist press for 1 week while tapering his medication under his doctor's supervision. The first night he pressed the points, lay down, and was asleep within 5 minutes. He woke up startled because he hadn't fallen asleep that quickly in years without medication. By the end of the week, he was off the medication entirely and sleeping better than he had in a decade. He told me it felt like he'd found a hidden switch in his body that he didn't know existed. The technique is simple, portable, free, and you can do it anywhere, anytime you need to sleep, whether it's bedtime, a middle-of-the-night waking, or even a daytime nap. The consistency of doing it every night trains your nervous system to associate the wrist press with sleep onset, so over time it works even faster. If you want to amplify the effect, combine it with the extended exhale breathing from number 3. Press the wrist points while breathing in the extended exhale pattern, and the dual input to your nervous system creates a powerful synergistic relaxation response. You can also combine it with the shoulder press from number 2 if you have time and want the full sequence. The order would be shoulder press for a minute, extended exhale breathing for 2 minutes, then wrist press for 30 seconds per side. That full sequence takes about 5 minutes and will drop most people into sleep faster than anything else I know. Now let's talk about one more layer that ties all of this together, because even the best techniques work better when your sleep environment supports them. This isn't about buying expensive mattresses or gadgets. It's about 3 simple environmental adjustments that people over 60 often overlook. First, sound. Even if you think you sleep through noise, low-level background sounds like traffic, a partner's snoring, or a neighbor's television can fragment your sleep by pulling you out of deep stages without fully waking you. You don't remember it, but your sleep quality suffers. Consider a white noise machine or a fan that produces a consistent low hum to mask irregular sounds. If you share a bed with someone who snores, this is non-negotiable. White noise doesn't disturb your sleep because it's predictable and constant, and your brain habituates to it within a few nights. Second, scent. Your olfactory system is directly wired into your limbic system, the emotional and memory center of your brain, and certain scents have been shown in research to promote relaxation and sleep. Lavender is the most studied, with trials showing that lavender essential oil diffused in the bedroom or applied to pillows can improve sleep quality and reduce nighttime waking in older adults. You don't need much, just a few drops on your pillowcase or a small diffuser running for 30 minutes before bed. If you don't like lavender, chamomile or sandalwood are gentle alternatives. Third, touch. The texture and weight of your bedding matter more than you might think. Heavy blankets or rough sheets can create subtle discomfort that keeps your nervous system slightly aroused. Conversely, a light-weighted blanket, around 5 to 10% of your body weight, can provide gentle pressure that calms your nervous system through deep touch pressure stimulation, similar to a hug. Some people over 60 find weighted blankets too warm or restrictive, so it's worth experimenting. If you try one, start with a lighter weight and give it 3 to 5 nights before deciding. These environmental adjustments don't fix insomnia on their own, but they remove friction and create a context where the techniques I've shared, especially the wrist press, shoulder press, and breathing, can work optimally. Think of it like tuning an instrument before playing it. You can play out of tune and get some music, but when everything is aligned, the sound is clear and effortless. Your sleep is the same. When your morning light is strong, your hydration is balanced, your bedroom temperature is right for your body, your nervous system is calmed through breathing and acupressure, and your environment is quiet, dark enough and comfortable. Sleep stops being something you have to fight for and becomes something your body naturally surrenders to. That's the shift I want you to experience. Not sleep as a battle or a mystery, but sleep as a biological process that you can support and optimize with simple, practical tools that respect your age and your physiology. I want to end with a principle that I think gets lost in most sleep advice. Sleep is not a performance. You can't force it, and the harder you try, the more elusive it becomes. What you can do is create the conditions, internal and external, that allow sleep to happen. The wrist press, the breathing, the shoulder release, the light exposure, the hydration, the temperature. All of these are ways of removing obstacles and sending your body the signals it needs to feel safe enough to let go. For people over 60, especially those who have spent years or even decades struggling with insomnia, there's often an underlying belief that good sleep is just gone, that it's a casualty of aging that you have to accept. But that's not true. Your sleep architecture has changed, yes, but your capacity for restorative sleep is still there. It just needs the right support. The techniques I've shared tonight are not magic, they're physiology, and they work because they align with how your nervous system, your circadian rhythm, and your body actually function at this stage of life. They're safe, they're free or nearly free, and they're accessible to anyone willing to spend a few minutes practicing them. So here's my final question for you, and I genuinely want to hear your answer in the comments. Which one of these 6 techniques are you going to try tonight? And what's your biggest sleep struggle right now? Are you having trouble falling asleep in the first place? Or are you waking up in the middle of the night and can't get back? Are you dealing with racing thoughts, physical discomfort, or just a general sense that your body won't shut down? Let me know in the comments below. And if you try the 30-second wrist press tonight, come back tomorrow and tell me how it went. I read every comment, and your experiences help me understand what's working and what people need more guidance on. Sleep is one of the most powerful tools you have for maintaining your health, your cognition, your mood, and your independence as you age, and you deserve to reclaim it. These techniques are here to help you do exactly that. Try them tonight, give them a few days to take effect, and notice how your energy, your clarity, and your sense of well-being start to shift when your sleep finally deepens. You've got this.